best performance the best performance you can achieve in Alan Wake 2 on PC with the best GPU and CPU configuration. So from Intel we have the 14900K, and then from AMD we have the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, and then for the GPU side we have the 7900 XTX from AMD, and then we have the RTX 4090 from NVIDIA. Both cards are the reference models or the Founders Edition. I will also put a list of the actual drivers the game was tested on, the game version, the exact test bench configuration. So for like the CPUs, for example, both have the same 420mm AIO with a manual fan controller. So I was able to manually control the fan and pump speed to 100%. I set it manually. This reduces any independent variables while testing because it tends to ramp speeds up and down for the pump and fan. Even if you configure it manually not to, for some reason I noticed during testing it still did for each test bench. So I just have a manual fan and pump controller to reduce any independent variables or making something unfair. Also, the Intel system supports higher RAM or RAM speeds, and the AMD system does not. So I'd be introducing a bottleneck if I use slower memory on the Intel system. I would be giving it a disadvantage versus using, the Expo for AMD's RAM and then the XMP for Intel's RAM. They have dedicated, timings and casts you can get, and special, memory that's tuned for each platform. So that's why there is a difference when you see it on the tech sheet. Without further ado though, let's just get into the benchmarks. The area I used to benchmark the game was called the heart, which you can see on screen now. The reason I picked this area is because of the manual save point. This allows me to start the benchmark of the game from the same exact point, reducing any amount of independent variables when I'm starting up the game or starting the benchmark. Also, this is a fairly demanding part of the game in the foresty section versus in the town. If you're new to PC gaming and you're wondering what is average FPS, which is the metric I'm using to give the difference of the CPU and GPU performance in today's data in Alan Wake 2 to see which one is better. A very simple explanation is the bigger number is better. I will link an article down below in the description that goes into far more detail, but just for today's video, I would say 30 FPS is the bare minimum you should accept for playing a game versus the most optimal and playable FPS you would want would be 60. At 4K on the high graphics quality preset and high ray tracing with no DLSS or FSR, the Intel 14900K paired with the RTX 4090 is 2 FPS faster than the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, and with DLSS on, it's still only a 2 FPS increase on average versus the Ryzen 7800X 3D. The performance is identical when pairing the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D and the Intel 14900K with the RX 7900 XTX with a 6 FPS average at native resolution and a 14 FPS average with FSR. At 1440p, the Intel 14900K paired with the RTX 4090 is 3 FPS faster on average at native resolution, and with DLSS on, it's only 5 FPS on average faster versus the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. And when switching to the RX 7900 XTX with the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, there is a 1% FPS on average at native resolution and identical performance with FSR. At 1080p, the Intel 14900K with the RTX 4090 is 3 FPS faster at native resolution on average versus the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, and with DLSS on, and the 14900K is 2 FPS faster than the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. Switching to the RX 7900 XTX with the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, there is a 0% performance difference versus the 14900K at native resolution and with FSR. Now moving on to how much money you're spending versus the performance you're getting in return, which is the fun part for me at least. I did all the math so you don't have to, but I will show my work on screen, but I will just tell you the key takeaway to make this easy. The key takeaway is that you're spending 37% more money on the Intel 14900K when paired with the RTX 4090 at native resolution, and you're getting a performance gain at 4K of only 7%. At 1440p you're only getting 5%, and at 1080p you're getting a 4% performance increase for a 37% increase in cost. Now moving to the RTX 4090 versus the RX 7900 XTX. The key takeaway again here is you're spending 60% more money on the RTX 4090 when paired with the Intel 14900K at native resolution to achieve performance gains of 383% at 4K, and at 1440p you're getting a 292% more performance, and at 1080p you're getting 239% more performance. So you can see in this scenario, I'm not saying the RTX 4090 is a great value, but when comparing it to the RX 7900 XTX at all three resolutions, you're getting way more performance versus, the money you're spending 60% more, but getting a 383% increase in performance at 4K makes a whole lot more sense versus the Intel 14900K and the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. And I hope this helped you if you're looking to build the best PC to play Alan Wake 2. This was more for the people that wanted the best experience possible with an unlimited budget. And it's not always that you buy the best usually, and it ends up giving you the best performance, because sometimes the AMD GPU can offer you better performance depending on the game, who it's being sponsored by. If it's being sponsored by NVIDIA or AMD like Starfield performs much better on the RX 7900 XTX or equivalently to the RTX 4090. So there's a huge difference there. And again, with the CPUs, not every game is going to perform better with the Intel 14900K versus the 7800X 3D. And I hope I could help answer those questions was the goal of this video. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.